First up is the ongoing, really, revelations and developments about the efforts to take down President Trump. Now, there's nothing wrong with opposing President Trump because you don't like his politics and you think he needs to be removed from office because he did something wrong. You know, it's a free country. But you can't break the rules to get the results you want there. And in this case, it looks like this is what's been happening with the Mueller Operation and with the Obama Justice Department, FBI, and frankly, it continued even into the Trump administration with the deep staters. We've had now revelation after revelation of improper bias, both in the FBI, Justice Department, and the Mueller Operation, targeting President Trump and evidently protecting Hillary Clinton. We've got Peter Strzok, the FBI special agent, who was sending these anti-Trump texts where he talked about having an insurance policy in case President Trump won. He was the top agent at the FBI, one of the two top agents of the FBI on counterintelligence matters, was running the Clinton email investigation, and then was the go-to guy on the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. And then we have also the Andrew Weissman, who is the #2 Mueller deputy, who Judicial Watch exposed as having an anti-Trump bias. He was sending an email, for instance, we found, to Sally Yates, the acting Attorney General under President Trump. She was an Obama holdover, and she was there for 2.5 weeks in the beginning of the year. She was fired by Trump after she refused to defend his travel ban in court. Complete lawlessness on her part, unethical. And what happens? Weissman, who's a top Justice Department official himself, sends her an email saying, "I'm in awe of you." So this guy gets to be hired as #2 at the Mueller Operation. And on top of that, the Wall Street Journal then reports he goes to the election night party of Hillary Clinton. So we have a partisan activist. It's one thing to be a Democrat or be a liberal and have views different from the president. Frankly, you can be a Republican and have views different than the president. It's another thing to be an activist, a partisan activist against the president and someone who supports lawlessness against the president, and be picked by a special counsel who's supposed to be reassuring the public that his investigation is free of bias. Heck, that's why we have the special counsel appointed to begin with. And this FBI special agent, Peter Strzok, who I was telling you about, he was removed from the Mueller investigation because of this bias 4 months ago. But it was covered up by Mr. Mueller because they didn't want this information out there and they didn't want to be criticized for having someone like him on it. So there's this crisis in confidence, not only in the way the Justice Department's been operating, but the way the FBI's been operating and the way Mueller's operation's been operating. And of course, to top it all off, you've got Andrew McCabe, who's also implicated in these text messages. He's the #2 official at the Justice Department. The Judicial Watch is exposed as having conflicts of interest that he didn't act on as he should have in a timely way. What were the conflicts of interest? His wife had taken over $500,000 from Terry McAuliffe, the Clinton crony who was governor of Virginia, in her campaign for office in Virginia. She was running it at the state level. And McCabe didn't recuse himself from any of the Clinton investigations until a week before the election. That's what the documents show that Judicial Watch uncovered. Not the media, not Congress, but Judicial Watch uncovered. Comey was in on it too, the former FBI director. Now McCabe is #2 at the FBI still. And he's also been implicated in these text messages I've been talking about. He was up on the Hill this week, supposedly, testifying for hours on end about the dossier that the FBI has been using. I guess he was, according to the Fox News report, defending the dossier without actually being able to defend any specific fact in it, other than the fact that one individual traveled to Russia who was associated with President Trump's campaign on a separate issue. So here we've got pro-Clinton, by the way, McCabe recused himself on the Clinton issues just the week before the election. I don't know if I told you that or not. So you've got his involvement, you've got this FBI special agent's involvement in the Clinton email investigation. And the one thing that McCabe did talk about, supposedly at this hearing, which was behind closed doors, which is another problem. Congress is investigating a lot of these key issues behind closed doors. I don't know what the purpose of that is that the FBI, it was clear last year, was defending or pursuing this dossier quite aggressively. Now compare and contrast what they were doing with Hillary Clinton's Russia collusion information. Now this dossier, of course, was created by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Committee, who used the law firm Cutout to pay for it. And the dossier is created by the authors going allegedly to Russia to talk to intel people there. So Hillary Clinton's campaign pays someone to go to Russia to communicate with Russian intelligence about her political opponent. And who gets targeted for a collusion investigation? Donald Trump. So by all accounts, Hillary Clinton should be subject to a special counsel for her Russia collusion. And of course, Judicial Watch exposed how she was getting money directly from the Russians through her husband's speaking fees on this Uranium One matter. So a lot of developments this week. At least Congress is beginning to ask the questions of some of the right people, like Andrew McCabe. Of course, Andrew McCabe, FBI has been stonewalling, bringing him in to testify. You have this Justice Department official, Bruce Orr, whose wife worked for this Clinton campaign vendor, and he's meeting with this Fusion GPS dossier creators while he's at Justice Department. He just got demoted once that came out. He was up on the Hill testifying, but of course we don't have the information because we can't get it, because it was behind closed doors. So what Judicial Watch does is we sue for information. So we sued for the dossier. We sued for payments around the dossier, to be more specific. Did the Justice Department FBI pay the authors of the dossier? How did that work? What were the communications? Bruce Orr's communications, that's covered by this FOIA request and lawsuit. See, unlike whatever everyone else is doing when they talk about this stuff, actually Judicial Watch is in court fighting for the information. And we're being stonewalled by the Justice Department and the FBI and the dossier, who refuse to confirm whether or not the dossier exists. And it's not just from the dossier that we're getting the stonewalling, but virtually every key issue related to the Russia scandal is being stonewalled by the agencies responsible for the documents. For instance, the unmaskings. Let's take a step back. Remember, Susan Rice first denied there were unmaskings, and then she admitted that she did them. Susan Rice, the Obama National Security Advisor. And supposedly there were hundreds of unmaskings done. Now, what does this mean? It means that our spy agencies were listening in on foreign nationals talking. And when they mentioned or maybe talked to Americans, these Americans sometimes are unmasked for intelligence purposes. And the allegation is, and the concern is, that they were using these unmaskings, or the authority to unmask individuals, Americans, caught up in warrantless eavesdropping because they, quote, needed to know. Well, don't you believe it? I'm convinced, and to me the information tells us that they were targeting, they realized, oh, we eavesdrop on foreign nationals, let's use that as a backdoor way to spy on the Trump team. General Flynn was caught up in it. Jeff Sessions was caught up in it, excuse me. And I'm convinced the president himself was caught up in it. So they were weaponizing our intelligence agencies to target their political opponents. That's the allegation. So we've asked for documents about the unmaskings. We sued for documents about the unmaskings. And just, I think this week, we get a court brief from this Trump administration. Who is running the Justice Department? Mueller or Sessions? Who's running the FBI? Who's running the NSA? Hillary Clinton or appointees of President Trump? Because they're telling us We can't get anything on the unmaskings. They won't confirm that they're even in existence. They don't want to give us anything. The stone wall is 100 feet high. So this is exceedingly frustrating. So they're stonewalling Congress, they're stonewalling Judicial Watch, which means they're stonewalling the American people. Because when we get the documents, we make them public. Congress gets the documents, they don't necessarily become public.